I want you to picture something for a moment. It's Tuesday evening, maybe 6:30. A mother is standing at the kitchen counter, phone wedged between shoulder and ear, trying to coordinate something with her sister while stirring pasta sauce that's starting to burn. Her 7-year-old daughter is at the table, silent, staring at her homework with that particular kind of stillness that parents recognize as distress. The girl doesn't say anything. She doesn't cry. And then, without announcement, the family dog walks over, rests its head on her lap, and stays there. The child's hand drops to the dog's fur. Her breathing changes. Within 90 seconds, she's back at her homework. The mother, still on the phone, notices none of this. But something just happened in that kitchen that we're only beginning to understand the full weight of. I've spent nearly 3 decades studying the emotional architecture of American households, and I can tell you with certainty that we have fundamentally misunderstood what pets do in our homes. We think of them as companions, as entertainment, as responsibilities that teach children to be accountable. And they are those things. But what they actually are, functionally, is something far more necessary than we've given them credit for. They are emotional regulators in homes that desperately need regulation. They are attachment figures in a culture that has systematically dismantled most of the traditional structures that used to provide attachment. And for children especially, they are often the first and most reliable source of unconditional presence in lives that are increasingly characterized by conditionality. When we look at the neuroscience of emotional development in young children, we see that the developing brain is essentially learning how to manage distress. That 7-year-old at the kitchen table is navigating frustration, confusion, maybe shame about not understanding her math problems. Her nervous system is activated. Cortisol is elevated. She needs co-regulation, which is the process by which another being's calm presence helps bring her physiology back to baseline. Traditionally, that would come from a parent, a grandparent, an older sibling. But in the contemporary American household, those people are often unavailable, not by choice, but by circumstance. Both parents working, extended family hundreds of miles away, siblings overscheduled. The child is left to regulate herself, which is a neurological task she is not yet equipped to perform. And then the dog walks over. What happens in that moment is not symbolic, it's physiological. The child's hand in the dog's fur activates her parasympathetic nervous system. The dog's steady breathing, its warm physical presence, its utter lack of judgment. All of these provide the co-regulatory function her brain requires. Her cortisol levels drop. Her heart rate stabilizes. She returns to a state where learning is neurologically possible again. The dog didn't solve her math problem. It solved the much more fundamental problem of her nervous system being in crisis. Now multiply that moment by hundreds, by thousands over the course of a childhood. What you begin to see is that pets are functioning as a kind of emotional infrastructure in the home. They are filling gaps that have opened up in the social fabric of how we live now. The nuclear family has become, in many cases, the isolated family. And children feel that isolation acutely, even if they can't articulate it. What pets provide is a buffer against that isolation. They are a constant in homes defined by variability. Parents' moods shift with work stress, with financial pressure, with marital tension. But the family cat is always the family cat. It doesn't bring home its bad day. It doesn't withdraw affection based on grades or behavior. I've watched families where the child will bypass an available parent to seek comfort from the dog. Not because the parent has failed, but because the dog represents a kind of emotional simplicity the parent cannot offer. There's another dimension to this, which is the development of empathy. Young children are fundamentally egocentric, not as a moral failing, but as a developmental reality. Pets become one of the primary vehicles through which children learn to decode nonverbal, emotional cues. They learn to read body language, to interpret signals of discomfort or contentment, to adjust their behavior based on another creature's needs. A child who learns that the cat doesn't like being held too tightly is learning emotional attunement. These are not abstract lessons. They are embodied, repeated, reinforced through daily interaction. And here's what's particularly important. It's low stakes. When a child misreads a pet's signals and gets scratched or growled at, the consequences are immediate but manageable. There's no long-term relational damage. The child learns, adjusts, tries again. This is how emotional competence is built. The pet relationship is a rehearsal space. It's where children get to practice being empathetic without the fear that getting it wrong will cost them the relationship. We also see something fascinating happening around responsibility. Taking care of a pet is different from other childhood responsibilities. It's responsibility chosen, or at least accepted, in the context of love. A child who feeds the guinea pig every morning is caring for something that depends on her. And that dependence creates a sense of being needed that children rarely experience elsewhere. In most domains, children are the ones who need. But in the relationship with a pet, the dynamic inverts. The child becomes the provider. That shift builds a sense of competence and mattering that no amount of praise from adults can replicate. For many American children, the death of a pet is their first encounter with grief. And while that's painful, it's also developmentally crucial. Pets offer a way to learn about grief in a contained context. And what children learn from that experience is that you can survive loving something and losing it. You can feel the pain fully and come out the other side. I think about the American household as it exists right now. We're more connected technologically and more isolated emotionally than perhaps any generation before us. Children are growing up in homes where everyone is present, but no one is fully available. And into that fragmented space, pets offer something increasingly rare: undivided presence. A dog doesn't multitask. When it's with you completely. What we're really talking about is the question of what it means to be loved without performance. Children are constantly performing for parents, for teachers, for peers. But you can't perform for a dog. The dog doesn't care about your grades or whether you made the soccer team. It cares that you're you, and its attachment is pure in a way that almost no other relationship in the child's life can be. That purity teaches children that they are lovable simply by virtue of existing. So when that 7-year-old sits at the kitchen table with the dog's head in her lap, what's happening is not a small thing. It's the formation of emotional capacity. It's the development of resilience. It's a child learning that when the world feels overwhelming, there is a place to go that will hold her without asking anything in return. And she will carry that knowledge with her long after the dog is gone. The pet won't remember any of this, but she will. I hope this gave you something to think about. If this resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. I'll see you in the next video.